Dr. Jackie Kickish, physical therapist specializing in core and pelvic floor rehab for women. If you think urinary leaking, also known as peeing your pants, means that you have a weak pelvic floor and therefore you must be doing endless kegels, this video is for you. Today, I will be going over the difference between a hypertonic or tight pelvic floor versus a hypotonic or low tone pelvic floor. At the very end of this video, I will be going over in detail why kegels may actually be making your urinary symptoms worse. So make sure you stay tuned to the very end for that. Before we get started, it is always a good idea if you are having pelvic floor issues or symptoms that are going unresolved and you're trying to make them better, it is always a good idea to be examined by an internal floor pelvic physical therapist or your OBGYN. After we discuss the differences between the hypertonic and hypotonic pelvic floor, please keep in mind that each of these are going to require a different treatment plan. Let's go ahead and dive in. First, we're going to be reviewing signs and symptoms of a hypertonic or tight pelvic floor. For a lot of us, we have tight pelvic floor muscles more in the posterior or the back part of our pelvic floor. So let's go over some of these signs and symptoms with a hypertonic pelvic floor. The first one, of course, is urinary leaking with any type of pressure activity or exercise. So coughing, sneezing, jumping on a trampoline, exercise. All right, we have constipation or straining when you are on the bathroom. Back pain, hip pain, pelvic pain, abdominal pain is also another sign. If you have painful intercourse or pain when inserting a tampon or cup, that is also a sign that those muscles are tight. All right, the last couple signs are if you have difficulty getting a deep breath in, if you constantly feel as though you have the urge to urinate or go to the bathroom, if you have difficulty emptying your bladder, and then the last one is if you are doing endless kegels and they are making your symptoms worse, this is definitely a sign that you have a tight or hypertonic pelvic floor. Again, stay tuned to the very end of this video. I'm next going to be going over the signs and symptoms of a hypotonic or low tone pelvic floor, but we're going to be going in detail as to why kegels will actually be making your symptoms worse, which is actually what I see a lot with my clients. So doing endless pelvic floor strengthening and kegels is not going to be the best plan of care for you if you are someone that has a hypertonic pelvic floor. All right, next we're going to go over signs and symptoms of a low tone or hypotonic pelvic floor. These muscles are overly relaxed. So another symptom of a hypotonic pelvic floor is urinary leaking, also known as peeing your pants. So now we know that you can have urinary leakage with either one, a hypertonic pelvic floor or a hypotonic pelvic floor. Now, with the hypotonic pelvic floor, you really feel as though you cannot contract your pelvic floor muscles when you do try and contract them. All right, so it might be very difficult to make that mind-body connection. All right, the next one is if you feel as though, when you insert a tampon or cup or disc, if it is descending and falling out, that is definitely a sign that those muscles are overly weakened and stretched out because it's not able to hold it in place, especially when you're doing activities or exercise. Last thing to keep in mind with a hypotonic or overly relaxed pelvic floor is that it can lead to pelvic organ prolapse. It can also lead to SI joint pain, hip pain, and back pain. And that is because these muscles that are intimately connected with our hip and our spine are unable to give the support and stability that it needs for our core to function properly. So now that we went over the difference between the hypertonic pelvic floor versus the hypotonic pelvic floor, let's quickly review why kegels will actually be making your urinary symptoms worse if you have a hypertonic or tight pelvic floor. And this is simply because you are trying to contract and tighten a muscle that is already tight. All right. So when it comes to a muscle being able to function properly, it has to have the correct length, tension, relationship. All right. So if you think of these as muscle fibers, if they are all the way really tight and basically in a shortened position, they are already tightening and eventually they are going to relax and give out, right? So you cannot keep tightening a muscle that is already tight. So that is why we have two completely different treatment plans when it comes to hypertonic versus hypotonic pelvic floor. All right. So when it comes to the hypertonic pelvic floor, we actually want to be focusing on exercises that is going to relax and stretch and open up our posterior pelvic floor to help relax and stretch these muscles out, which usually a lot of times will also help decrease hip and back pain. At least that is what I find for a lot of my clients, okay? So that is why Kegels makes your urinary leaking actually worse if you are someone that has a hypertonic pelvic floor. In my next two YouTube videos following this one, I will be doing a pelvic floor strengthening workout for those that have a low tone or hypotonic pelvic floor. And then I will be doing a new and different set of exercises for those that have a hypertonic or tight pelvic floor. So make sure you do not miss out on that. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so that you don't miss out on those great videos. If you are someone that this video has helped you, please let me know below in the comment section. Leave a comment. Let me know what symptoms you are dealing with right now so I can best help you. And I can't wait to see you in the next video.